The pictures are appreciated by the audience or the people for whom the picture is painted. They're appreciated because they're accurate. When a picture is unveiled in a mess, I stand back and people gather around the picture and look at it, and you can to hear the comments of, oh look, he's got John there, look, there's Bill so-and-so, and look how he's got the such and such correct. And it's for me, it's pleasing to hear that.
When you go through life in the army and you go through the various messes of the battalions, whether it be the sergeant's mess or the officer's mess, pictures hang on the wall which depict the ethos of the regiment to which you belong. The picture binds the soldiers together. It gives them a feeling of camaraderie, and when groups get together and they look at a painting in which they actually were part of and they served, that feeling comes very much to the forefront. It builds a family spirit around which those soldiers operate.
Most British regiments are 300 years old. They've got paintings of Waterloo and such battles, Minden, and they want a modern painting, which is merely another chapter in their long history, to be in the same fashion. And a 20th century picture is just another episode in their long story. These are prints of the paintings. This is a painting which follows my visit to 3rd Battalion, Royal Regiment of Fusiliers in Iraq in 1991. I'd been to this very spot where these artillery pieces were being attacked by the Fusiliers, who attacked them from behind. They swung around and outflanked them, and the enemy, in fact, were only too willing to surrender. Fusiliers debussing, as they call it, dismounting from the back of the armoured personnel carriers. And this particular one bears the call sign of one of the vehicles which was struck by an American A-10 aircraft, which killed quite a large number of British soldiers. Accidental fire, or friendly fire as they call it. The Fusiliers I've always had a fondness for. My dad's uncle was in the Royal Fusiliers in the First World War. I used to ask him questions about what it was like. He was at the Somme in 1916. The Royal Fusiliers, the 7th Regiment of Foot, were, and still are, one of the prestigious regiments.
I think David's work is so important. He is a modern artist that records what's going on with the military today, but he records it very accurately, and in times to come this will be an important record of how the modern army existed, fought in various battles and carried out their day-to-day life.
I've been an artist ever since I left my former employment at the National Army Museum in London. I've always been interested in British military history. When I was in fact a struggling artist, I was doing pub signs and whatever work I could get, but really I wanted to paint the subject which I'm now happy enough to have full-time work in. As a schoolboy, I was always drawing. In the margins of my school books were Napoleonic soldiers and colours flying and bayonets and battle scenes. After I had been a struggling artist for about 10 years and the work started to come into me and I was invited to go on operations with the army, it was from then on that I've never, from about 1984, 85, I've never been short of work. When I do look at my back catalogue, I suppose you could say prolific, yeah, happily. Yeah, I've not been short of work. Yeah. All of these paintings begin with a rough sketch so that I can visualise the best angle to paint the required scene. But following on from the very rough sketch, then I do a more composed picture which has to achieve the approval of the people commissioning the picture. My dad's uncle, who had been in the First World War, was an art teacher. In his house, where he had his oil paints and so on, the smell of the linseed oil and the paint, it was mesmerising. He gave me some oil paints in tubes and brushes and just showed me the basics. And using these, I taught myself how to handle oil paints. The first major commission from the army was of Lieutenant Dease and Private Godley.
The Royal Regiment of Fusiliers asked him to do a painting of the Battle of Mons in 1914. It depicted two soldiers who were subsequently awarded a Victoria Cross.
The Anzacs landing at Gallipoli. For First World War and before that, one has to read a lot of the accounts of what it was like on that day, what the weather was like, what time of day it was, and get a good image in my mind. The 33rd Regiment of Foot at Waterloo, when they're formed in square, like all the other infantry battalions, I took great interest in trying to make all these faces believable and different. The historical subjects were my forte until I began to go on operations in the 80s. If I can see with my own eyes and ask questions and say, show me the vehicle that you're talking about in which Private so-and-so did this extraordinary thing that you want me to paint. And to be on the spot and see the real people and equipment that the subject happened around. Having been there on the ground, it's invaluable to get the accuracy.
Modern military art tends to be more about the moment. It tells the story of the actions that took place. I think it's changed because people are now more interested in the life and times of a soldier and what he had to go through when he goes out on operations.
I've been on many operations with the army and seen war firsthand and the effects of it and people who've been displaced from their homes and casualties in the streets and destruction. It's not that appeals to me, but it's the human aspect of the British soldier, the Tommy. I met lots of interesting people, particularly army officers and senior NCOs, who liked my attitude, and they respected the fact that I was interested in them and I understood all about their regimental history and the significance of what they were doing. Before I arrived, they would imagine an artist as being something of a hippie, you know. They had a concept in their mind. But when I used to go there, then I would wear the same sort of kit that they would have. In fact, I had to wear a helmet and body armour and all the rest of the stuff. And my only weapon was my camera. When it's all over and you come back, and I know for a fact that this is how soldiers feel as well, and in fact when they come back from an operational theatre of war, they have a week of decompression. They'll go to Cyprus and try and become civilised again after 6 months or 4 months of danger. My decompression is to be back home, and for most of the day I'm alone here in my studio, which is how I like it. And it's quiet apart from the radio, and I will have sketches and photographs and notes all over the floor. It's those circumstances that I need in order to paint the picture. Some of these pictures that I've been commissioned to paint record episodes that have been almost forgotten. I'm trying to pay respect and honour to the British soldiers who've been ordered to go to these places of danger. I'm interested in the human story of what it's like to be there.